We are live. One day at a time, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Onward Podcast. Hi, everybody. It's Emily, the host of the Onward Podcast. Sorry, I'm going to shut my door here. So thank you for joining us. If you're here, I'd love it if you'd put in the comments your name and where you're listening from. So I know one time we had somebody listening from Nepal. I mean, sometimes people come and join this from all over the world. So I wanted to say that I appreciate you guys. I'm starting just a minute late because I have 2 StreamYard sessions scheduled. And so I was in the wrong room. I was looking, where's Dominey, my guest? She was in this other room. So I found her. I found the right room and we're ready to get started. So today we're going to be talking about how we can reprogram our subconscious mind for success. And I'm excited to have Dominey here. She's actually a relationship expert, which I could use some tips in that. So who can't? So I'm going to bring Dominey on board in the room. Hi, Dominey.
Hello.
Welcome. And where are you? You're in Portugal, I think, right?
I am in Portugal, of all things.
So
yes.
It's like 3 a.m. for you?
Pretty much. Yeah, it's right around midnight.
We scheduled this episode a while ago and
Yes.
you probably didn't even know you were going to Portugal. And
exactly right.
You sticking to the schedule and joining me. I'm excited to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. So are you in Portugal on like vacation or work or?
So, the structure of my life now is such that vacation and work are kind of the same thing.
I love it.
So I'm not really, in the sense that I'm not taking time away from work to travel, but I can travel I can work from anywhere. So I tend to just travel and then work from places that I find inspiring and exciting.
Do you have a home base?
I did until recently. I was actually in Asheville, North Carolina for quite some time. For me, quite some time was about 6 years, and that was like the longest I've been anywhere. And then I went traveling for about 3 months, actually, on my Instagram and on my podcast, because I was working the whole time. I sort of documented my journey
Awesome.
as I kind of travel around and look for places to live. And I landed in Denver for a little while, and then I ended up just leaving there a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's welcome the folks that are watching right now. We've got Donjette Gilmore. She's joining, I think, from the Washington, D.C. area. Tim Sohn from Pennsylvania. Thank you for helping me today, Tim. I had a question for him and we talked on the phone. He helped me out a lot. Russ Hedge. Hi, Russ. He says, good evening, ladies. And we've got Virginia Walker joining. So welcome, everybody. If you have questions for Dominey as we're going through this interview, please let me know. So Dominey is the premier in personal and relationship coaching. Her direct, intuitive approach is unlike anything else in the industry. So I'm excited to learn about that. And she solves in mere minutes issues that people have struggled with for decades. And she's a poster child for the success of this work, having transformed 180 degrees herself since beginning to study it nearly 20 years ago. You've been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, ThriveGlobal, and your passion is now to facilitate the same powerful transition in your clients. So I'd love to learn, like, what was your journey? And then, yeah, because you said you transformed 180 degrees yourself.
Yeah, so. I know there are like a number of like crazy large statements in that little paragraph there, and the crazier thing is that they are all 100% true. It's absolutely wild. I'm unrecognizable from when I began. I love your topic. I love this, like, overcoming adversity, because I fit right into that. As soon as I remember when we first spoke and you said that was the topic, I was like, oh, I have some really good stuff to share.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking, because you were sitting in a car. You were like, maybe at that time you were in Denver. I may
have been on the road. Yeah, I may have been
on the road.
Place.
Yeah. No, I remember that now. Yeah, and we talked about this and we got you scheduled. I'm excited to learn more. Yes.
It's been quite a ride. It's still quite a ride, really. But now the ride is more like on my terms. It used to be that I was sort of more like getting rolled by the ocean. You know what I mean? Like, where it's just sort of, I don't know what's happening or which way was up. That's kind of how life used to feel for me. But essentially, overall, I found this work when I was 19 years old. A little wave of gratitude as I say that, because my life is so different now. But I was a mess. I was a mess of insecurities. I was filled with just self-hatred, a lot of self-loathing, deep insecurities. I was uncomfortable in my body. I didn't like wearing clothes because clothes never quite fit right because I wasn't comfortable in my body. So of course I couldn't be comfortable in clothes. I carried a lot of extra weight. I was depressed. I suffered a lot from ADD. And really just all of these things that just felt like that was kind of how life was. And I think that's maybe the biggest issue that keeps people stuck, is they just kind of figure this is how life is, or sometimes they look for help and they just can't find, or they can't find help that's good enough to actually eliminate the problem entirely.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, understandable. A lot of people don't think all of the issues that I just talked about could even be fixed, but they're actually like fixable. And I'm aware of what a strong word that is to use with these types of things. So I found this work, thankfully, and I dove into it. I mean, from the first weekend that I studied it, I was, to like a workshop, and it was just life-changing. And I was like, I would like more of this, please.
What is this work?
So where I started is a branch of work called pathwork. And it's not very well known, which is odd because of how incredibly powerful and transformative it is. And then I went to study. So I studied there for 4 years. I went to their in-depth program for 4 years. And then I went to a school called the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is actually an energy healing school.
My coach that I interviewed last week, I don't know if you know her, Sandy Rakowitz.
I do know her. Yes, did you interview Sandy?
Yeah, and I interviewed her last week.
You should tell her that you're interviewing me. So she lived in Virginia, not far from where I grew up. Actually, she was around the corner, and my mother and she was our healer for quite some time. She worked with our animals. She does animal communication really brilliantly. Yeah.
Yep. She's my coach. I have a session with her tomorrow. I've invested in her for a year. And,
I'm so glad.
We had such a great session, but I know she went to the Barbara Brennan School, and she's really helped me out because, like, I really operate in my thinking brain.
Yeah.
She'd ask how I feel. I'm like, I don't know how I feel.
I think I feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she always calls me out. That's what you're thinking.
Yes.
Feeling. I'm like, so I've gotten there. But anyway, so
that's a big deal.
Yeah. Cherie says hi. Doten, I think that's how you pronounce it. Hi, Sherry and Dominey. You're in from Atlanta. We've got Dee Baker. Hi, Dee. We just got off the phone with her, and this is awesome. So many awesome people. So yeah, what a small world.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm so glad to hear too. Because she wasn't. Yeah, please do. She wasn't just a student. She was actually a teacher at the time.
I know.
Yeah, she was. She gets it, which is great.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of BS in this field.
Okay.
And it's not, I think all of it, honestly, I think a lot of it is very well-intentioned BS, but it ends up being BS simply because, let's say somebody's trying to sort of work or enact real change, but if they, let's say, suffer from the same thing you do, like they're unable to get out of their head, they can feel very much like they're doing powerful healing work. They feel like they're doing the steps, but their clients might get a little bit of difference, but they won't get this sort of massive sort of shift simply because, and it can be very difficult to tell whether you're thinking or feeling sometimes.
Yes, it can.
Right? Yeah, that's a really, really subtle thing. It sounds like it should be really obvious, like, oh, those are two totally different realms, which they are, but they blend. I mean, it's so subtle. And so that type of thing, that's a common issue. And so when you're working with someone who really can see and feel the difference, like Sandy does, then that's really a game changer in your healing work.
Yes. Yeah. I might go to that Barbara Brennan school next. I just texted her. I don't know if she'll get it.
That's awesome.
Dominey Drew now.
Yeah, I haven't been in touch with her in quite some time. But she's really. I saw her like regularly for a while as well. She was part of my growth.
Well, her horse Ibis passed away.
Oh.
And so the day that we interviewed each other kind of last Veterans Day last week. was the 2-year anniversary of her horse passing. She'd had that horse for like, I don't know, 37 or 34 years or something.
They were so close.
And yeah, she still communicates with her horse. And I'm pretty sure she's writing a book, but it's co-written with Eva's.
Oh my goodness. How about that? That's kind of great.
So what I feel, I would start with, I don't know what I feel. I think I feel. I've really learned how to feel, but it takes practice.
Yeah.
If you've shut out your feelings, which I did by being busy, so I didn't have to feel them.
That's a really good way.
I was very good at it.
Very, very effective. And that's really the point of thinking in general. When we use thinking as a defense, right? Because anything that you're good at, obviously, of course, you know this, but just for your listeners to kind of spell it out a little bit, anything that you're good at, your natural gifts, is what you use as a defense. It's what you use to defend yourself, right? If I throw something at you, you're going to defend with your dominant arm, right? You're not going to be like, I'm going to try a left, right? I mean, because it's like, it's automatic, right? It's like instantaneous. And so I'll use myself as an example. So I'm naturally very loving, right? That is a gift that I have. The core quality is what the term Barbara Brennan uses. And so you'd think, oh, well, if you're loving someone, like, how could that be anything but good? Well, I distorted it as we do, very, very, very deeply. And the way I distorted, quote unquote, love is into being a people pleaser, never saying no. In fact, my understanding, my belief, very deep belief, was that if I said no, it meant I didn't love you. Mm-hmm. And so to do so, I felt that as I said it. Well, it didn't come up there. And so that felt intolerable to me. Yeah. And so I would rather make myself suffer. I'd rather say yes when the answer is really no than to experience that type of pain. Yeah. And so that's what I did. So it's what we all do. So so my imagination is that you're naturally brilliant intellectually. Is that accurate?
Of course. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so the thing is, I mean, I'm not saying of course, but I mean, I went to the Naval Academy. That's a tough school to go to. I rose to senior executive. I'm very competent. I can. But I just had a conversation with one of my classmates who's still working for the Navy. He's an executive too. And we talked about this. It's like, I don't ever remember learning self-leadership. It's always like how to lead those people. Yeah. We really need to learn how to lead ourselves. Yeah.
Or even just be ourselves and then just decide where you want to go, and then you just go. Yeah. It's quite fascinating. And as I've been over my period of evolution over these 20 years has been quite remarkable. And penchant for growth. That's another gift of mine, is I don't want to stop. I would like to do more, please. And so I just like keep going and going and going. And that's how I've gotten so far in what is really a relatively short period of time. Is the way that and you can hear it in people's language, the way we discuss things, is as if there are multiple of us, right? A common one. I know I should go to the gym, but I don't want to go to the gym. Let's say that's your problem. So part of you wants to go to the gym, clear, no problem. That foot's on the gas, right? Your conscious mind says, I want to go to the gym. Great. Mm-hmm. And then something else says, don't go to the gym. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. It's going to make you miserable. And that foot, we could say, is on the brake. Mm-hmm. And so your conscious mind is your foot on the gas. That's going towards what you know that you want, right? I want to be successful. I want to run a business. And then your subconscious has a foot on the brake. And, I'm procrastinating, or I'm perfectionizing, or whatever it is that's keeping you from starting your successful business. And so it's as if there's multiple of us. And when there's that kind of a split inside, we're working against ourselves and we can't get to what we want. There's only one thing that keeps us from every single thing that we want, and that is self-sabotage. Yes. That's the only problem any person on the planet has. If you can solve that one problem, there is nothing between you and what you want. It's amazing how fast things come into your life experience when you can, when you're on your own side, which is kind of a phrase I've just started using. Like when you're, okay, I'm not going to go to the gym today. Yes, I know that I would feel this if I did that, but you know what? I'm not feeling it, so I'm not going to do it. There's no split in that. You're just making a decision with what you want to do with your day. And it's a whole different way of life, I find.
So if you say, I want to go to the gym, but the other part of you saying no, but how do you ever get to the gym?
Yeah, and you may not that day, but one day you might go, okay, I know that I'm not feeling, it's less about whether or not you go to the gym and more about how you are with yourself.
Yeah.
If there's an alignment, then your body wants to go to the gym, but maybe you've been eating fast food for a few years and there's weight so you're out of alignment with yourself, right?
Yeah.
So from a baseline place to go straight there, you're right. It may not sort of jump into that spot, but gradually, as you keep aligning with yourself, getting on your own team, the starting of which is try not giving yourself too much of a hard time for not going to the gym, right?
Like the other day when I was going to go to yoga at 8:30 and I woke up at 8:35 because I didn't set my alarm and I didn't beat myself up. I was like, I guess I needed sleep more so than going to the gym. But I think that people feel like they're a loser because they don't have any willpower. They can't make themselves go to the gym.
So we have another example then here. I am a loser.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're stepping outside of yourself, turning back towards yourself and deciding that you're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In order to have that perception of yourself, there has to be two of you, right? Otherwise, you're just like, I am how I am. And you might think I'm a loser and you might think I'm not, but I'm on my own side. I just am how I am. Right?
Sometimes it's tied to your subconscious because you talked about the title of this episode has to do with, reprogramming your subconscious. So is it your subconscious that is saying, no, we're not going to the gym?
Yeah. So the subconscious, of course, as I'm sure you know, is geared toward safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is something about, maybe not the gym in particular, but maybe stepping into your power and alignment with yourself that is linked to something that happened when you were a child that makes you feel like if you do that, you will actually die.
Mm-hmm.
You will actually die. So I've worked with men in relationships for a very long time. I now work with both men and women on every topic. But for a long time, it was men and dating. And so a lot of the guys that came to me, they wanted a partnership. They thought they wanted a partnership. And yet when a partnership showed up, they would turn and run the other direction.
Mm-hmm. That's what men do, huh?
That's what everybody does. They were terrified. They're terrified of the very women that they wanted. Same way women will come to me and be terrified of the successful business that they want. It's just, there's something about that thing that they're associating with fear. So here we come to the subconscious, right? So consciously, foot on the gas. You want a girlfriend, you want a successful business, you want a husband, whatever it is that you want. And then subconsciously, you're stopping yourself from getting it for what is to you an excellent reason. The only problem with that whole scenario is that reason is out of your awareness.
Yeah. Alex says, I'm not denying anything, LOL. Sandy texted me back. She said, oh, so cool. She's awesome. Send her my love. Small.
Oh, how lovely.
Russ says, such a great topic. Awesome discussion. Somebody, I can't see who it is. Hi, Emily. Hi, Dominey. Maybe it's Sandy. I'm not sure because they have to register their name on Facebook. They have to register it with StreamYard.
Oh, gotcha.
Awesome. So, how did you end up getting into relationship coaching?
To be perfectly honest, I just picked it.
Okay.
Yeah. The nature of the work is such that it literally fixes any problem that you have, period, without exaggeration. Because again, your only issue is holding yourself back. So it's odd because the expertise that I have can be applied to absolutely anything. And so I literally chose it when I started the business. I was like, okay, what do I want to spend my time talking about? And I wanted to work with men. I felt very called to work with men. And there's also, I found very little support out there for men. Whereas there is a huge amount for women, which is also great. But I really wanted to help the men sort of have a safe space. And so I did that, and I still run my men's group, and I adore that. Even though when they came in, though, to talk about their dating, I would say this is not about dating because their problem isn't about dating. Nobody has difficulties dating. Dating is not hard. If we strip away all of the culture and all of the civilization, all we want to do is have sex and eat and protect ourselves and die. I mean, it's like this is the basic thing that we're, evolved to do. And so it's not a hard thing to do. It's that all your personal issues get in the way of it.
Mm. So if your desire is to go to the gym and it is not followed by going to the gym, then you really didn't have a desire to go to the gym.
Not quite. Yeah, not quite accurate. Because you do have a desire, because you know that you want to. You can feel that. That's a lived experience. That is real. It's just not stronger than the usually subconscious desire to not go to the gym for whatever reason that is. And that could be many reasons. The idea of stepping into your power kind of comes in. To go to a gym, like you're going to feel your body, right? You're gonna be here. You're getting stronger. You're engaging parts of yourself. To me, when I go to the gym, it always feels like I'm clearing the cobwebs. You know what I mean? Like after I come out, I'm like, oh yeah, I can like almost feel parts of myself that I couldn't quite feel. Similarly to the thinking issue, you think to very, very effectively and efficiently not feel things. Yeah. That's wonderful. So if not feeling things is your goal, then, even though you're like, I want to feel more. Oh yes. But part of you does not want to feel more. And where you fall on that spectrum can be shown by the outcome, what you end up actually doing.
Yeah. And like for me, for dating, it's like, okay, so I've been single since 2014 and part of me wants to date, but the other part says, no, don't. It'll end up bad like all the other ones did. So don't. Right. So that's where, I've done a lot of work. I haven't focused on that part yet. And Sandy's here. She says, that's me, Sandy, relationships are everything. So guess what? She'll be talking to me about.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a Sandy session right there. and so the practice actually now becomes very simple, or can be very simple. You can spend the rest of your life working on that, or you can clear it in a couple of sessions by simply connecting with the part of you. And you do that at the pace that you're willing. It actually comes down to human willingness.
Connect with the part of me that doesn't want to.
That doesn't want to, exactly right. And when that place has a voice, when you give it space, when you turn and look at it directly, you acknowledge it, you see it, you give it, this is also a part of me. What would you like to say? It's a game changer. And as it speaks, all it's trying to do is express itself. But because we keep dismissing it and pushing it away, there's a way in which it gets kind of stuck, and you hold it there. You're actually holding the part of you that doesn't want it. So as you, and I have a few processes to do this, one of which I'd be happy to actually provide to listeners if you like. I created it in a video. It's just free on YouTube. But there's a way in which you can breathe down, consciously connect with that piece. And as you do that and give it a voice, it can process through your human system. And when it processes through your human system, it is gone forever. That piece of it is gone forever. So you may need to do that 2 or 3 times. But as you do that, that's why I changed 180 degrees in such a short period of time. Because as I, let's say, went through a piece where all this emotion overwhelmed me, that piece that I was carrying, distorted in my body, processed through me and was actually gone. So these aren't coping mechanisms. These aren't techniques or tips and tricks to like help you feel better about your anxiety. This is a way to find the source of your anxiety, address it at its core, and eliminate it through.
I give another example of not another one, but because I haven't done it yet on relationships with men, but the relationship with my parents. I moved here to Stanton when I turned 56 because I wanted to be able to spend more time with my parents. Yet sometimes I would get triggered by things they said or whatever. And so I worked with a coach who we talked about, it's maybe not this part of me, this adult part of me, and maybe I'm not explaining it correctly, that's getting triggered. It might be 6-year-old Emily that's getting triggered. So work on leaving 6-year-old Emily in the car, tell her you deal with her, you'll help her, you'll protect her, help her later, and I kind of work through all that. And now I've integrated that 6-year-old Emily into my heart when it comes to, spending time with my parents. And I just don't get triggered. And I just focus on enjoying my time with them and love. It's awesome. And it wasn't like a year of counseling and stuff. I didn't even have to discuss why my 6-year-old was getting triggered. It's just, how do you work with it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Some people, I used to be very into the story. It was like, oh, this story, or this is a past life, or this is something or other. It's interesting, but I find the same. It's no longer necessary.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even that interesting. Like, it's at some point you sort of get to the, you get to the point where it's like, okay, do you, it was coming from ego, my interest in the story. Ooh, who am I? This defines me. And now I'm just like, I have no interest in defining myself.
Yeah, that's cool. Ingor says she's dropping by to say hi. Thank you. Nadine says, oh, hi Nadine. How are you doing? Nadine joined us. Love game changers. Yes.
Heck yeah.
Everyone's saying hi to each other. Let me see. Greetings. Find the source and eliminate it at the core. Love that. Yeah. Don't spend years in therapy. Someone else, D says, I can definitely relate to this discussion. Triggers. Yeah. Bill Bradford. Hi, Bill. So, wow. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And if you have a question for Dominey or something that you want me to ask her, whatever, post it in the comments. We'll make sure we get to it. So
I'm so glad that you shared what you just shared about that, about the trigger with your parents, because that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine doing that in every area of your life.
Well, yeah. Once I had a trigger with a neighbor, and I worked that through with it wasn't Sandy, but a different coach. But it was like the way the neighbor was acting was a way that my ex-husband, who was verbally abusive, acted. And that triggered me. And it was maybe in a different way, not the same way, but I got triggered, and I think it was related to that. And so I worked through that. It's kind of recognizing too, what's triggering you, and just resolve that within your own body. Because look, you want to be above good, bad. You want to be like in flow and full of love and just enjoying life. And I can tell that's how you are now.
Thank you. That is actually how I am now. And to be clear, like, because obviously nobody here knew me before this interview, but I used to be just a mess of being triggered all the time. Ask Sandy, she'll tell you. She was working with me when I was a mess of triggers all the time. And
well,
it was
when you're triggered, it's like if Dominey would change, then I wouldn't have reacted that way.
Yeah, God, what is wrong with her? All these reasons, and then you find friends that agree with your reasons,
right?
And collude about your reasons, and like, oh, and it's like feels great, but it doesn't fix anything. And at some point, I just had to chip away, and then now I've gotten to the point where the process works so quickly and easily that it just doesn't even happen anymore. Yeah.
I agree, Cherie. Let's shepherds in the field. Let's gain strength with each other and have peace in our journey. I look forward to interviewing you coming up soon. I think on the 27th, Cherie. That'll be fun. Yeah. So you wanted to talk about, you've been using these approaches since you were 18 or 19, and I got a fire truck going by. And then I asked you what made you focus attention on men. And you said that's just one area. And it is true. Sometimes as a coach, someone will come to you for this issue that they think they're having, but really a coach can help get to the root of the issue, because the issue that the person thinks they're having may not really be it. Right?
Well, it never is.
Yeah.
Almost by definition, because if you knew what the problem was, you would have solved it by now, right?
Yeah.
And that's really important, right? So take you have your intellect, you're highly intelligent, which is great. That's a wonderful core quality. And that distorts into a number of things, some overthinking and some, cutting off feelings and things like that, right? And so when you come at it from that angle, you've got that set of gifts. But as a result, okay, so you're highly competent. So that says even more. If you can't solve it,
yeah, and
you can't find the answer in a book, it's really important that people know that this is not about knowledge, right? If let's say you're trying to start a business, or hell, let's say you're trying to reach enlightenment. The steps to enlightenment are online.
Right. Read them.
they're not hard to find, right? The steps to building a successful 8-figure business is online. It's not hard to find. In fact, there's
Hold on
multiple
1 second.
ways.
Somebody just said that they lost us, and I don't know how to get back on LinkedIn, but let's see. Hopefully they can go to YouTube or something like that. It looks like maybe on LinkedIn they lost us. But anyway, yeah, the steps are there. You can all right. So if you want to get strong, go read a book about how to lift weights.
Right. So the knowledge is not the problem. It's not that you don't know how to start a business. It's not that you don't know how to reach enlightenment. It's that you know exactly what to do and you don't do it anyway.
Yeah.
So the only problem anybody has is that something's keeping them from doing it anyway. And here we are back at self-sabotage. So there's some way in which you are not, you're stopping yourself. So it's interesting because the only skill set I have is this one thing, and it will solve, all of this myriad of problems. My anxiety, my depression, my weight, everything. I got to the point where I finally figured out what was happening with why I was actively holding the weight on my body. And once I let go of that, the weight fell off. I couldn't keep it on.
Well,
and now my body's effortlessly in balance.
So how come more people don't know this? Or, how come so many, and I'm sorry for the people that are watching, they say they can still hear us, but the screen's blank. I don't know why. I can see us. So it's got to be something with StreamYard. And there's 2 streaming softwares that I know of, and one is Restream and the other StreamYard. I think they're both pretty good, but I'm going to be switching to Restream soon, and maybe that will be it. But I've never had this problem before, so hopefully you can stay and listen to us. I'm not sure why that's happening. So, someone said, "How do you find out what is sabotaging you?" Yeah, and someone said, okay, 2 questions. Where does emotional intelligence fit into this conversation? And then someone else says, how do you find out what is sabotaging you?
Okay. So I have a video that shows you how to find out what is sabotaging you. And with your permission, I can send it to you and you can post it in the show notes or somewhere with this video, if that's all right. I just call it the breathing exercise. That's kind of all I can, and it's actually one of the few things I came up with on my own, because most of this is I've just trained with, in very effective ways for a long time. So the work is really coming through me, just to be clear, not, exactly from me. And so in this exercise, essentially what it leads you to do is simply bring your awareness to your breath, right? To watch it and not affect it as much as possible, right? Not to actually change it. And to observe it, and then to observe where it's blocked, and then to observe what it is that's blocking it. Whatever it is that you're going through that is not serving you will stop your breath in some way. Breath is it's a metaphor for the life force, right? Not just for the sort of life pulse of like expansion and stasis and contraction and stasis. That's from Brennan as well. But also like in a way that's so literal, it's almost hard to put into words. But if you and I were working on, okay, what is it that's keeping you single when you don't want to be single? Great. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem. Okay, cool. So we would start with this exercise. I'd say, okay, cool. How is your breath? And then what is blocking it? And I would walk you through this exercise. And whatever is blocking your breath is the source of what is keeping you single, because that was the topic. That was the space you were in when we started the exercise.
Wait, so how do I know what's blocking my breath?
You look and see, and it represents itself. If you want, I can walk you through it.
Okay.
You don't have to.
No,
but either way, it's a really useful thing to.
Let's try it.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and just let your eyes close. And just bring your awareness to your breath. And try not to change your breath in any way, but just allow it to do what it naturally wants to do. And just observe it, just watch it. And As you sit watching your breath, just allow yourself to notice, and everyone can do this along with us. Just allow yourself to notice how far down your body is your breath coming on your own if you don't change it in any way. And once you can see how far down your body your breath comes on its own, just look and see if it's flowing in evenly on the left side and the right, or if left to its own devices, it flows in more fully or more effortlessly on one side or the other. And now let yourself notice if it flows in evenly from the front and the back. And once you have a sense of this, I want you to let yourself get curious about the line where you see your breath stop. And you can tell me when you're ready, what is it that you see there, first thought, that is blocking your breath from coming in even more deeply?
Something right here in my stomach area, maybe right around my stomach area. I don't know what it is, but it's like my breath only goes down like that far, not all the way down.
Great. And so when you look at that place, just sort of let yourself get curious about that place where you see it stop. What is it that's there that's stopping it?
I mean, the word that keeps coming to my head is the word that keeps coming to me is heart, but my heart's not down there, but it's heart.
Mm-hmm. And when you see, and I say see, of course, not quite literally, but as you see the same way you see your breath stop, what's on the other side of that place where it stops?
I mean,
don't work too hard. Just the first thing that occurs to you.
The first thing that occurs to me is like a black area.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so how big is this black area?
Yeah, it's like the size of from my hips in. Was that big?
Mm-hmm. Great. And what are the edges of it like?
Round.
Mm-hmm. And are they sharp edges or fuzzy?
Fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Great. What is the weight of this thing?
It feels kind of heavy. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like a 5-pound weight.
Mm-hmm. Great. And now, the same way that you've been receiving this information, just looking and seeing what's there and not worrying if it makes sense or not. If this black area had words, what would they be? And try to listen, just receive and see if it has anything to say.
Pain.
Pain. Beautiful. And now I'd like you to ask it, what does it need?
Listening. Like slow down and listening.
Mm-hmm. And was that the exact word, listening?
Mm-hmm. Listening.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And now in your adult mind, does that make sense to you to listen more? Do you know exactly what that means? Great. So in this moment, I want you to just give it some space. Just listen to it for a moment. And just let me know what you notice, if anything. Just really listening. this black area. Good. And as you're listening, what do you notice?
That it's pain that wants to be acknowledged and not ignored.
And how is it responding as you listen?
It likes that. Mm-hmm. It's saying journal about it. That's a way to get it out.
Good. So notice how connected you are to this place of yourself. This place that wasn't even in your awareness a few minutes ago. And so this black area, is it still the same shape and size?
No, it's got smaller. Yeah.
How big is it now?
I'd say, it's probably like this big and not very heavy. Still there, but like I feel like it would go away and get better when I write, when I get some things out.
And probably if we sat for another 5 minutes, it would disappear on its own. But now you can visit it because you're aware of it.
That was awesome.
So a couple of things. One is that was not a person who had a hard time feeling.
Yeah, that's what one of my coaches has said is you can feel, you just have ignored it.
Oh, of course. But just how well you did that, right? It took a minute, right? Because there was your head was in the way. Well, it says this, and then you just dropped in. But then the depth of that connection, right? Yeah. That's what's below the thinking mind.
Let me just say that 2 years ago, I would not have been able to do that.
I believe you.
And, I had one coach who's like, well, I wanted to learn to be. I didn't even know how to be. And I didn't know what that meant, but I just knew I wanted to be, but I don't know how. I'm always busy. And so she wanted me to do this yoga and, or meditation. And then I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sit like that. And she'd say, well, what, she wanted me to do it 40 days straight. And she'd say, well, why haven't, what day are you on? I'd say 2. Well, what's going on? Well, you don't understand. I'm busy. Yeah. I have a lot to do. Yeah. I'm trying to start a business. I'm hosting a podcast. I got a lot to do. I'm too busy.
I don't have time to be.
Kundalini yoga kind of thing, moving where I was able to move and I felt like I was at least doing something. So it's taken a lot for me to get to be able to do that and to drop into my body and have my head not coming up with the answers. Cause like what you say is, when you ask a question, I can easily, somebody like me will go right to their head and like, oh, I don't know, I've got to get the answer right. What did she mean? What is, how big it is? Does it have the edges? And you're like, just what's the first thing that comes to your mind? That's your friggin' intuition.
Yes.
That's the first thing that comes to your mind. Say that. That's the answer.
Yes. And so what
it means.
It's exactly right, especially if you don't know what it means. And what you're basically doing there is you're accessing your subconscious. You just spoke to the real source of a problem in you. Now, we didn't look and see what the story was and what it's linked to. Again, doesn't really matter. You can just keep doing the exercise and life will just start getting better and better. But we've just been talking this entire time about the whole source of every single problem in your life is in your subconscious. And the only problem you have is that you can't access it, because if you can't fix a problem, you can't define. So if you don't know what the issue is, even though we didn't know what the story behind the issue was, we knew there was a black lump there that was blocking you from breathing. That's the issue in the moment. And you keep doing this. And so it literally, it connects your conscious and your subconscious minds. That's why the first thought is important. That's why the instructions in this video are very intentional, because it's important not to change your breath. Why? Because if you change your breath, you're doing something.
Right.
You're telling your breath how to be. Oh, I know. I'm very smart and spiritual. Deep breath is better than shallow breath.
Right.
So if a person comes to me and says that, I go, okay, great. They've got a spiritual education. They're here, but they're not here. Because up here is, oh, how fascinating. That's just how it is. That's the next level of spirituality. Right? And then the one beyond that is there aren't even any words. It just is what it is, right? And so it puts you in touch with your subconscious. The reason why it's the first thought is because, and why there's a black thing. Obviously, there isn't physically a black thing in your stomach, but you're also not only a physical being, are you?
No.
You have a mental level, you have an emotional level, you have a spiritual and energetic and psychological levels. So that's why when people do therapy, it often works if you have a good therapist. The problem is either they often don't, or it still just takes years and years, because you're only working on the mental and psychological levels. That's where therapy specializes. My work works on all of your levels at once. So it accelerates the whole process times about 1,000.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Oh my gosh. And the thing is, I went on, I coach in a program called Mental Fitness, which is, I'm not going to get into the details on that, but I did an interview with my roommate from the Naval Academy, and the title was How to Naval Academy Graduates Benefited from Mental Fitness. Because the thing is that, like you've been saying, you're smart, you're accomplished. Why, Emily, have you invested? I've invested just under 100,000 on myself in coaching. And the reason is because I don't know all the answers, and I want to accomplish some of the things that you just helped me with, that Sandy helps me with, and my other coaches help me with. It's not stuff I learned working for the military. It's not stuff I learned going to the Naval Academy. A lot of my life has been living in my head. Yeah. And there's so much more to life than that. My life has been push energy, push, work hard, work harder, keep pushing, work hard. And I haven't been doing that the past year, I would say. That's one of the things I worked with Sandy. I told her I want more time for myself, and we're wrapping up a year, and I've come so far in that. So it's awesome. Life can be so much better. Just don't accept the way, if you're just like, it's good enough, I'm good.
Yeah.
It can be better.
Then it is. If that's what you decide, then it is. Yeah. And if you decide you want more, and you find the right help, right? Somebody's where it's effective, it's actually effectual, right?
Yeah. So someone says, just be in your moment. Do all of those levels speak to each other? You were just going through the different levels.
Yes. So those levels are all integrated. Okay. So you can, as you, let's say, go just to a therapist, right? Yes, you're only addressing the mental and psychological, but your emotional level will be affected by the work that you do there. Your physical body will be affected by the work you do there. I used to carry a lot of weight on my body. I did all the physical things I could possibly do, and none of them did anything. And I was stuck. And I know a lot of people who have a similar experience. When I shifted in my reality, in my inner world, the issue, the energy, for me, it was energetic, where I was holding on to. For me, it was actually what caused my weight issue was I was taking on responsibility for other people's feelings and life experience, right? I wanted to control it. Of course, I didn't come from that place. I came from a much more like martyred place, or much more sort of like self-sacrificing. Oh, I'm a healer type. Again, here I am. I'm an extraordinary healer. And of course I distorted that into this is not what healing is, but that's what I thought healing was. I genuinely thought that. As I let that go, my physical body, within short, and I also couldn't stay out of the gym. I've never been a gym person. I grew up riding horses. And that was all the exercise, right? But I always had the weight. And then I never could not make myself go to the gym. Again, there's two of me in that situation, right? I couldn't make myself.
Right.
And then when this issue cleared, I could not stay out of the gym. I wanted to go. I remember going in for the very first time. I was living in London, and I went in, and it took me like 3 days to get in because I needed some sort of like card because I didn't like really live there. And I was so frustrated for those 3 days because I wanted to get in the gym. And then I get in there. I didn't even know how to use any of the stuff. I was just like, I've seen people do this on TV. I'll try this for 10. Okay. Ooh, I want to live myself. It was like a playground. I was having so much fun in this thing that I'd never enjoyed in my entire life. So it's like all of the levels are completely integrated such that there will be the things that you find incredibly difficult or impossible now can flip to the point where they bring you so much joy and ease and effortlessness. It's almost impossible to express the extent.
So if somebody can go online and watch your video, it tells you how to do what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they need a coach?
Oh, well, if you don't, that's fabulous. Send me a testimonial and tell me that you solved all of your issues in that video. That would be amazing. I would love that. Come be a guest on my podcast, and because that would be phenomenal. And honestly, if you can master this, it does solve a lot of problems on its own. Mm-hmm. Actually, it has had incredible responses. I just gave just posted the link here in the chat.
Okay.
Why do you need a coach? Usually because you can't see what you can't see. So if you had done that on your own, you might have told yourself the answers. And we were talking in the very beginning against how subtle that line is between thinking and feeling, right? Or between doing and being. So
I was trying to think sometimes when you said something, you're like, first thing that came to your mind.
Yes.
So, okay.
Because I can see it, because I can see the way that you're accessing the information determines whether or not you're really accessing it or you're not. And so, but my goal is to not have my clients forever. I don't have ongoing programs per se, right? There are like some sort of ways you can work with me in an ongoing way. And the people who are like really passionate about it will do that. But like I work with people for about 8 weeks or 12 weeks. Those are the programs. And then people will usually just get a one-on-one session, every month or every couple of months to kind of like get a tune-up. But like, and it's not that the problem is necessarily entirely solved at that point. It's that my goal is to give you the skills to heal yourself. That's what you come out of my programs with. Yeah.
And you put it in the private chat. So I'll copy it and put it because I don't know that we can really post in the chat, but here, let's see.
Yeah, I actually don't know how to do that. I just want to make sure you had it.
Yep. Someone said accountability. Yes. I think I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm not sure. Daten said accountability. Yes, that definitely helps. And here I am, like we talked about, went to the Naval Academy. I can get stuff done.
Yeah. Right? Efficacy is not your problem.
Right. And usually if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, but I've been working with coaches. They accelerate your success.
Yes.
What I would say.
By a lot. And if the problem has a solution, why would you stick with it? Right. It's best to, I mean, it's not best at all. That's not accurate at all. It's just the option is there to move through it more quickly and to live more of your life happily and effortlessly without it.
Yeah. So I'll put this in the link in the comments too. That this is the link where people could set up a free call with you, right?
Yes. And I would be very happy to offer that to your listeners. It's just it's a call where you can talk to me about what it is that you're going through, and we can go into it in some more detail. And if I can help, that's great. But either way, it gets you some clarity on what you're going through and what you need to do and how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And your website, DomineyDrew.com.
Yeah.
So what did we have a few more minutes, 5 more minutes or so, but what did we not cover that you think would be appropriate to discuss right now? Can you think of anything? Did I miss something?
Not to say missed per se. I actually really appreciate how you were able to model what it is that we're talking about. I thank you for doing that, because it's a lot easier to see someone do it than to speak about it conceptually, and to feel you go, to feel you go through it. It's important to know that even things that look like they have nothing to do with you can be fixed by you on your own. So if you're in a marriage that's got some rough places, both of you don't even need to come in, to see me. Like, both of you don't even need to do the work. It's kind of wild. But if you think about it, every dynamic takes two people, right? A relationship takes two people, whether that's a wonderful, healthy dynamic or a horrible, abusive dynamic, it still takes two people. One has to abuse, one has to stay and allow the abuse to happen, right? You're taking part in some way.
Yes.
So when one person stops playing the game, the whole game falls apart. Right? So you have the power on your own to shift just about everything. Now, they will end up shifting as a result just about every time, but that's not really the intention of doing it. Mostly you get to the place where you're standing in your power. Let's say you were feeling disempowered before or frustrated. Great. If there's any place you're feeling disempowered or frustrated, that's an issue where you can do some growing. And you gave us that beautiful example early on. Your parents were triggering you. So you go to your girlfriends and you have some wine and you go, oh, can you believe it? And they go, I know. No wonder you had that response. That's totally logical. You are right.
Right. And that would never, and then I still have a terrible relationship with my parents, and a few weeks ago when I was interviewing my roommate from the Naval Academy, she went through one of my programs and she talked about how that helped her in her interactions with her husband, only because she changed. He wasn't in the program, but she changed some of her reactions or the ways she was, responding or whatever.
Yeah, because it's probably the other person's probably not happy either.
Right.
So it's not like he thinks everything's, sometimes that happens, but chances are he's also realizing an issue and he doesn't know how to fix it either.
Right.
So when she pulls back her dynamic, that's also triggering him.
Right.
Oh, now he's not triggered anymore. Now we can have more of a conversation. Now there's space to move, etc.
Right. Because I think she said it in the interview, she has a little bit of a controlling tendency. She wants to control things. So he feels less controlled. He's going to react differently. Right.
Right. And that's going to be my first thought, as you said, that there's a safety issue there. So there's something
there is with her. She talked about that, about, how when she was brought up, she had a stepfather who was an alcoholic. So she talked about that, and that developed her controller, her mind needing to control things because she couldn't control him.
Yep. And
so, sometimes it could be something something that happens in our childhood that
every time.
Yeah. Every time.
Just about every time, unless there's a severe trauma, one that's usually quite obvious to the adult mind later in the adult life. Pretty much everything comes from early childhood or before.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a trauma, right?
Exactly.
Because I would say that, I had really great parents, and I was a good basketball player, and my dad would always be critiquing me. And I was a leading scorer in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And after a game, he'd say, good game. Now, remember that time you went right, you could have gone left. So I, as a first child, was probably already prone to being a hyperachieve, wanting to hyperachieve, but that made me want to just keep improving and achieve, and to please him.
Yep.
And, I tend to be someone who has a, pleaser kind of mindset sometimes to my detriment and hyperachieving.
Yep.
So, all right.
So here we have that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What?
So that's a beautiful, we were talking about the distortion of your core qualities and how competent you are. So a distortion of competency is non-consensually high achieving to the point where it's not even making you happy, really. It's compulsive.
Yes.
Right. And that's the only difference, these things. The only difference between my being radiant with love, which is my core, versus people pleasing, is one comes from love and core and one comes from fear.
Yes.
It's the exact same motion. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you so much. Sandy will resonate with all of this. I had a mask and I didn't even really know it was a mask. And it was kind of a mask and kind of some core would come out and then a lot of distortion because I was afraid. So it's very much not what you do in life, it's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can come to you could do the exact same thing, and you could either be effortless and joyful coming from competence, or it can be fear-based and come from, I have to make daddy proud. And both are perfectly legitimate. One feels good to you and serves you, and one does not.
That's right. That's right.
Ultimately it serves you, but it doesn't feel good. Yes.
So can you quickly talk about your body's innate ability to heal itself?
That's pretty much all there is to say on that topic.
Yeah.
It does in fact.
We see it with a cut.
We see it. Mm-hmm. And inwardly as well. Again, every level is integrated, and it's a metaphor of itself, or a microcosm of itself, both actually, depending on which level you're on. The human system wants to be in balance. Things want to stay in balance, right? They're designed, the whole human, the whole planet, the whole ecosystem, right? It naturally keeps itself in balance until you throw in, something like humankind that kind of messes the whole thing up. But it's your system wants, you are naturally a joyful being. Humans were meant to live joyful lives.
Mm-hmm. We were.
Yeah. That's your status. That's where your system wants to be. Anything that's taking you away from that, you're having to put effort into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the only problem, again, is that you don't know that you're doing that. So in a way, my entire sort of purpose in serving, the world at this point is, it's like you were given the most technologically advanced vehicle ever created, your human system, right? And it's amazing, and do anything you want, but nobody gave you the owner's manual.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? So it's not your lack of capacity.
Right.
It's not an inability. It's that you don't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
What I do is I read people their owner's manual.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you work. Of course, I don't say it that way. I show you, just like you. Now you've just been able to access your subconscious. That's a big piece of the owner's manual, right? So I can show people why it is and how it is that they're getting what they want that they don't want. Excuse me, how it is that they're getting what they don't want, and then naturally they fix it on their own. Again, if you knew the source of the problem, you would have fixed it.
Yeah.
So that's really all that's necessary. So the whole work actually is based on the fact that your body wants to heal itself, or actually, to be more accurate, that your body's not broken in the first place.
Right.
It's really just a matter of remembering that and seeing how.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Dominey, for being a guest on the Onward Podcast. I appreciate you.
That's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for everybody who listened in. Dominey's going to go to the green room for just a minute, and I'll be right there. I'm just going to do a little bit of an outro. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel very honored to be included.
Wow. I'm going to have to take some time and process that interview. That was really good. Just like the one that I did with Sandy the other day, where I haven't gone back and re-listened to that, because sometimes when you're up here and you're doing the talking and you're watching the comments and you're, making sure things are going well, I missed some things. So I'm sure that I missed a couple of things that Dominey said, but that whole, I don't know that you call it meditation, but the breathing exercise just was so helpful. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm trying to, I've got like over 1,400 people in my Onward Movement Facebook group, and that's where I advertise some events that are coming up. So I have one coming up where we're going to have a Zoom call. We're going to be talking about just recognizing all the things that we accomplished in 2021. And then we're going to be doing some strategizing over what we want in our lives for 2022. I mean, I remember when I used to work for the Navy, we did all these strategic planning and stuff. I never really kind of took a breather and thought about my life and what do I want? And that's what we're doing, is creating some space for that and to get together as a group and do that together. So maybe you want to join. You can go to the Onward Movement Facebook group, and I'll post more about it tomorrow too on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for watching. This podcast is usually just on Wednesday nights at 7:30. Next Wednesday, I'm taking off for Thanksgiving. And I actually have a special guest coming in on Saturday morning at 9, and we're going to be talking about self-sabotage and how to stop that. So it's a similar topic to tonight. Yes, the Onward Movement Facebook group. You can find that if you search on it. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to play my outro, and I appreciate you guys. The Onward Podcast is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about my coaching programs and how you can work with me. Let's move onward together.